Hello and welcome to another video on soundproofing. Today we're going to be talking about how to use isolation hangers to essentially hang a soundproof ceiling. Now, some of you may have seen my other videos where I talk about how I made my soundproof ceiling, which is using resilient channels or hat channels. There'll be a link for that video below. Also, you can probably click a little link above me right here. But this is a system that I could have done potentially and may do in the future, but this is offering a little bit more isolation, but at the cost of a little more headspace and potentially being more complicated. So in this video, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of using isolation hangers, how to do it, which hangers to buy, all that fun stuff. But before we jump in, I'm going to let you know that I have a free soundproofing workshop for you. This is 45 minutes of in-depth teaching that will guide you through the entire design of your soundproof studio. So this is a clear and focused teaching lesson that's not just kind of all over the place like YouTube videos sometimes can be. To check that out, just go to soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop and you can jump in right away and start designing your studio. All right, let's jump into this lesson on isolation hangers. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about the basic understanding and design of what this is. So essentially what you're going to do are buy these specially made soundproof isolation hangers that you will then hang from your ceiling above your recording studio, and then they will attach to the bottom to a stud that will go across your ceiling, which you will then screw in your 2 layers of drywall into. Now, if that sounds sort of complicated, don't worry, I'm going to show you diagrams and all those things in this video, but I just wanted to talk about the general overview first so you kind of understand the concept. The idea is that the weight of the new ceiling will carry the load of the isolation hanger so that it decouples sound that could travel from the room above, the floor that's above you down into your studio. So by hanging this ceiling and putting weight on the hanger, it actually will enable it to be soundproof. Now, the tricky part about this is you have to calculate all the weights of your entire ceiling and then look at the actual weights of the hangers to make sure that you don't overload the hanger, because if the hanger is overloaded or underloaded, then it could potentially short circuit the entire system, making the hanger useless and making the whole ceiling useless. So this is one of the reasons why I think some people shy away from this approach. However, if you do the math, if you calculate it right, you'll have no problem, and it's really not that complicated of a design, and it offers superior soundproofing to other options like the hat channel system. All right, so the second thing I want to talk about is looking at the math behind how you would calculate which hangers you need. All right, so now I want to do just a little basic math with you to understand how much weight each hanger would hold on a 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of drywall. In this case, we're going to use 4 hangers per sheet. And the idea there is that we're assuming that with each 4-foot by 8-foot sheet of drywall, you would essentially have 3 2x4s going across on your ceiling above, and if they're 16 inches on center. And we're going to place those hangers in between each bay. So you're essentially going to have 2 hangers in each bay per sheet of drywall. You can look at this diagram, it makes a little bit more sense. So 4 actual hangers per sheet of drywall. So we know that whatever's hanging in that area will have 4 hangers to take on the total weight of that load. So I know this is kind of complicated, but here let's calculate it. So we're going to have the weight of the 2x4s, which are going to be our new braces that we're going to screw the 2 layers of drywall in. So we need to account for that. There's going to be 2 of those per sheet of drywall that we're hanging. So a 8-foot piece of 2x4 board usually weighs on average 9 pounds. So for our 2 pieces that are going to hold up our sheet of drywall, we're just going to take that total weight. So there's going to be 2 of those boards covering a 4-foot span, which would mean that we will have a total of 9 pounds of wood holding down on those pulling down on those hangers. So now let's figure out the total weight of the 2 layers of 5/8 inch drywall that we're also going to hang from those hangers. So Drywall, when it's 5/8 of an inch, comes in at 2.2 pounds per square foot. With our 4 foot by 8 foot standard length of drywall, that will come to a total of 70.4 pounds per sheet. Now, since we're going to use 2 sheets to hang on our ceiling for soundproofing purposes, we're just going to double that, and that will come to 140.8 pounds per square foot. Now, if we add in the 2 weights together, so we had 140.8 plus 9, we're going to get 149.8 pounds total, or we could just round that up to 150 pounds for ease of use with this. Now, let's look at the actual hanger recommendations. So Rod Gervais, in his book, Home Recording Studio, Build It Like the Pros, which is a great manual for learning how to soundproof, he recommends using the WHR Mason Industries ceiling hangers. So if we look at the website for Mason Industries, we can see that the ceiling hangers have different weight capacities. Now remember that we were going to use 4 hangers per sheet in this design, and based on our weights, we know that if we take that total 150 pounds and divide it by 4, we're going to get 37.5 pounds per hanger. So we know based on that math that we want to buy the green hangers. The green hangers can hold up to 65 pounds or 27 kilograms. Now we know that if the ceiling gets above 60 pounds, the hanger will not work and our system will fail. Also, if the hanger doesn't have enough weight on it, it might not work as well. However, getting right in the sweet spot of that hanger, about 37 pounds, should work great for pulling the hanger down enough that it creates the isolation we need for our system. All right, I know that was kind of complicated. You can always go back, listen again, or watch again, but that's sort of the way you're going to want to think when you're designing your isolated ceiling. Now let's look at some actual design diagrams from Home Recording Studio Build It Like the Pros, where you can start to see how Rod has shown exactly how you would put this all into place in your construction. Here is a design from Home Recording Studio Build It Like the Pros by Rod Gervais. So this book I highly recommend. He's been a huge mentor. He doesn't even really know it, but he's taught me almost everything I know about soundproofing. And this design here shows you that you're going to place a hook in a 2x4 that's going to span across your ceiling underneath your existing floor. This right here are the 2 layers of drywall that he's putting underneath the existing floor to add weight, some new cross bridging. But what we're going to focus in on here is this right here, which is going to be the line of the joist beyond there. But what this is, it's a new 2x4 ceiling joist. So this will have a bolt going into that joist as it spans across your ceiling, and that's what's going to hook into the WHR clip. So there's the WHR clips right there. It's going to hook one end using 12 gauge wire around it right there, and then 12 gauge wire around another hook below it. And then the weight of this entire ceiling down here is what's going to make the spring work and make the isolation work. Notice the 2 layers of drywall that are attached to your new 2x4 ceiling joist here. And so the whole system is now isolated from the floor above. So that gives you a visual kind of how this whole system will work in practice. Now let me show you another design, another view, so you can get a better picture of this as well. So this diagram right here is also from Home Recording Studio Build It Like the Pros by Rod Gervais, and it shows basically a 180-degree flip of the same diagram we looked at before. So you can see here, this is underneath the existing ceiling or floor, whichever way you're going to think about it. You put in a new 2x4 support across the entire floor, and then screw in your bolts into that, and that's what the Mason Industries WHR hook is going to hook onto. Then here you can see looking straight on at the 2x4s that your ceiling is going to actually be built out of, which is just these 2x4 spans that are going to go across your entire room, and then the drywall is going to attach underneath into the wood right here, which is hanging from the clip. When you attach your ceiling to the sidewall, here's a double wall diagram, for example, you're going to want to make sure that the ceiling doesn't actually touch any of this inside wall here, or just has like a very, very, very slight air gap where you can use acoustic caulk to attach it to your inside wall. So that's going to hang and come in right underneath there with the ceiling backer, the 5/4 inch by 6 inch ceiling backer. It'll just line up right there, and then you'll have a perfect ceiling connecting to your inside wall there with acoustic caulk. We'll talk more about fire stops and backer rod and all this stuff over here in a later video. Fire stops are an important part of your double wall design, but it has nothing really to do with the resilient hangers that we're talking about today. So you can see that the hanger is hanging from a bolt into your wood that you have attached underneath here, and then you have other cross braces going the other way that are going to actually hold your drywall ceiling. So that's the basic design of how these resilient hangers, or isolation hangers as they're known, work. All right, I hope you found this video helpful. I know it was a little bit more on the complex side, but this is a slightly complex design when it comes to constructing your soundproof studio. So remember, some of the overview topics we want to look at are that it's going to be a little more complicated with the math. That's a slight drawback. There is some room for error. If you don't put enough weight or you put too little weight on, you're going to lose some ceiling height because you have to hang the ceiling, and that's going to sacrifice some ceiling height. So if you don't have high ceilings to begin with, you may not choose this option. But overall, this is a great way to soundproof your ceilings, and it will offer superior isolation than just using the hat channels or the 7/8 inch furring channel technique that I've talked about in other videos. All right, thanks so much for watching this. If you want to go in and take a deep dive into designing your home studio, check out my soundproofing workshop at soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop. That's soundproofyourstudio.com/workshop. Thank you so much for watching or listening on our podcast, and I will see you next week, same time, same place.